As you can see behind me, everything's still in bloom, but it won't be long until everything changes from summer to winter. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips to help get your pond ready for winter. Now before we go any further, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, give us a like, that way more people that enjoy ponds check this video out and maybe it'll help them get through the winter. Let's get started. Tip number 1, stop feeding your fish. Although they still look hungry, just remember, once the temperature drops, your fish are going to start slowing down. Now is a good time to switch over to a fall formula fish food. It has less protein and helps them bulk up for the long winter months ahead. You want to stop feeding your fish when the temperature reaches about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, they'll be going into their dormant phase. No matter how much they beg, don't feed them. Tip number 2, put your leaf net on before the leaves fall. As you can see here, getting your leaf net on early won't take away from you enjoying your pond. It's practically invisible. If you wait until the leaves fall to put your net on, then you'll have to suffer the wrath of Mother Nature. See, what happens is the leaves have tannins in them, and the tannins change the color of the water. This can also happen even if you do get your leaf net on early enough. The leaves will get on the net and weigh it down. The net acts as a giant tea bag, soaking the leaves in your pond water. You can avoid this by removing the leaves once they land on your net with a leaf blower or a rake. Tip number 3, when you take your pump out for the season, make sure you store it in water. Now inside your pump, there's all sorts of O-rings. I don't know if you can see it, but there's rubber O-rings in there and gaskets to keep the water moving the way it should. And if you take your pump out of the water and store it somewhere for the winter months, those rubber gaskets have a tendency to dry out. And if they dry out, they could crack, and then you'd have all sorts of problems in the springtime when you go to use your pump again. So what I recommend is either leave it in your skimmer box. That will depend on what kind of climate you live in. So if it gets super cold and you think it's going to freeze solid, it's probably not a good idea, because then you run a chance of cracking your pump. We haven't had an issue here leaving our pump in the skimmer box for the winter months. The pump's down there fairly deep. I would have to freeze solid like a good 1.5 feet down before it cracked my pump. So we haven't had any winters quite that bad yet. So for me, I just leave my pump hooked up. What I will do is disconnect my hose and drain my system, but I will leave my pump submerged in the water just to keep the gaskets from drying out. If you're gonna pull it out, simply put it in a 5-gallon bucket like the one I got sitting right over there, fill it up with water, and throw it in your garage. That'll keep the gaskets from drying out, so you're ready to use it in the spring. Tip number 4, now is a good time to trim back your pond plants. Your plants are done blooming for the year, and in case you haven't noticed, they have just about taken over. As we head into the cooler weather, it's the best time to hack them down to water level. The grass has been trimmed, and as you can see, it's starting to grow back already, even in the cooler weather. This will help them get a jump start in spring, but it will also reduce the amount of dead foliage that may wind up on the bottom of your pond, adding to the muck. Don't be afraid to hack them right down. Pond plants are very hardy, and most will go back with a vengeance. Now for our 5th and final tip, open up your valves. Now this last tip is something you may not think of. When you go to drain your system for the season, if you have any of these PVC valves, what will happen is if you turn them off while there's still water in the line, water will get trapped inside this valve. When that happens, all it takes is a cold day, a good solid freeze, and it's gonna pop your PVC valve and break it. In order to avoid that, keep your lines open and just leave them open. Okay guys, there you have it. 5 tips to get your pond ready for winter. How do you get your pond ready for winter? Leave a comment down below. Do these things now before the weather changes too drastically. You'll be glad you did. If you found any value in this video, don't forget, give us a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. We'd love to have you. Okay guys, until next time, enjoy your backyard water garden.